Hello, fellow woodshopperoos. I've been doing some demos at some different shows here in the region lately, and I was doing it on the history and the future of dovetails. So here's real briefly my demo. So I was talking about the dovetail joint, and as most of us woodworkers know, that this is a joint that goes together, and when it goes in, it slides easy from one way with just a little resistance, but then you cannot pull it apart the other way. It's an incredibly strong joint, and this joint has been used out through the centuries. They found that the oldest recording of this joint goes all the way back to the Egyptians. Inside the pyramids, in the tomb, there were boxes laid next to the pharaoh, and the boxes were supposed to hold gifts for the pharaoh to, I guess, play with in the afterlife. And the boxes were held together with the dovetail joint. And they did that because they didn't really have glue and they didn't really have nails back then. Yes, they did have some tree sap that they could use, but for the most part, they needed a joint that could go together and be strong without any kind of fasteners. Well, besides the Egyptians, over in the Far East, they were able to maximize the use of wooden joints. And so on all the temples and the old structures they would have over there, they had a column and a series of blocks that interlocked into each other. This way they could lay these massive, huge beams on top, and all the weight would be transferred down through this. Now, here's where the dovetail is on this one. This post would have these pieces that would connect to another post. And in it, you can see that I have a sliding dovetail. And if I take that out, what we have now is I have a shoulder here, that the shoulder helps give strength when there's weight placed down on top of this. And the dovetail, well, the dovetail, it locks in there, so then it can't pull apart. So you're like, okay, Chad, well, that's cute. That's a nice little history lesson. But how is that the future of a dovetail? Well, the oldest recorded earthquake was over in China. It was a 9.5 on the Richter scale. That's 20 billion tons of TNT going off. And the old temple, well, it didn't fall down. So scientists, architects, they were amazed and they had to figure out why. So they actually built a smaller replica, piece by piece, and placed it on one of those earthquake platform tables. And they shook it. They shook it to 10.1 and it still didn't fall down. Here's what they found. It actually walked. It walked 2 feet, but it stayed all together. So architects and designers now are realizing that there can be strength in this and yet still be movable, which goes against everything that we're thinking today of glue it, screw it, fasten it, anchor it down, bolt it down. We want to make it rigid and strong, and now they're realizing the wisdom in some of this old architecture. So engineers are trying to figure out new materials and how they can actually interlock these pieces together so it's strong and yet flexible. And I believe the dovetail is going to be one of those joints in the future. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little presentation. If you like what you saw today, make sure you subscribe and hit the like button. Put your comments down below, and we'll see you next time on another episode of Wood Shopping Time.